Good morning. I'm your District Attorney, Joyce Dudley. I am joined today by your Sheriff, Bill Brown, and your Fire Chief, Mark Hartwig. We are your county-wide team whose job it is to keep you and your loved ones safe. Today, we want you to know that even though you aren't out and about, we see you. We see you. We see your grief, we see your fear, your illness, and your abuse. We see you because we know our community and we know the members of our community. For those of you who recently experienced a death, you have our collective sympathy. On a personal level, I also understand your grief. Both my husband and my mother died in late 2019. At times, the pain of missing them is overwhelming. So I cry, and eventually I stop crying, and life goes on. Both of them would want me to find joy, and so I seek joy, as it is another way for me to honor them. For those of you who are out of work and fearful about your future, you are not alone. Most people across the world feel exactly that way. We should look at our history for comfort. We as a country have been here before, and we got past it. And we were more productive and financially more secure as a result. The only difference is now we are more sophisticated. So I believe we will get through this sooner, and we will get through it as a better state, country, and world. To those of you who are experiencing abuse, domestic violence, spousal rape, child abuse, elder abuse, or your animals are being abused, you have to make it stop. You have to make it stop. It won't stop on its own. You have to call 911. Every single police chief in the county of Santa Barbara has made in-home abuse their number one priority. They want you to call them. They want to make sure that you understand that is what 911 is for. They will be kind and they will be professional. They want to ensure your safety and the safety of those that you love. If for some reason you can't call 911, please call a victim advocate. Call a victim advocate from my office. The phone number is 805-568-2400. I'll repeat that. If you can't call 911, call a victim advocate from our office. 805-568-2400. They will help you. Now I will direct my comments to those of you that think someone might be abused or being abused. You are a family member, a friend, a neighbor. You have seen something or heard something or sensed something that drew that to your attention. Call 911. Let a professional look into it. My last comments will be about those who are sick and infirmed. If you are sick, call your medical advisor and let them help you decide what to do. And if you are too sick to do that, then you should call 911. And to those of you who are friends and neighbors, those same wonderful friends and neighbors who sensed or saw or felt that abuse, if you know of a neighbor who is sick or you know of a neighbor who is infirmed, call them and check up on them. Or knock on their door. Or call 911. They may be just too sick to take care of themselves. I promise you, you will never be sorry for making that call. But if you don't, you may live the rest of your life being sorry you didn't make that call. It is now my pleasure to introduce your sheriff, Sheriff Bill Brown.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank all of you for being here today. As they've done so many times in our recent past, the people of Santa Barbara County are collectively rising to meet yet another monumental threat to the safety of our community. As we continue to work our way through the insidious coronavirus pandemic and aim to save lives by flattening the curve, we must all do our part. Healthcare professionals, first responders, and essential workers are braving possible exposure to the virus to support the public, and the members of the public, in turn, are supporting each other by staying healthy at home. It is essential that we not make unnecessary trips outside our homes as long as the stay-at-home order is in effect. And the vast majority of our residents are doing just that because they understand how important this is, and I want to thank them for doing so. The reports of violations of the stay-at-home order have been few and far between. Even more importantly, our local statistics seem to indicate that the distancing measures that we are adhering to are working, and that they will flatten the curve. But we still have a ways to go. We need to continue to stay at home. You've just heard from District Attorney Dudley how relationship abuse, whether it be domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse, or even animal abuse, can increase when people are confined to their homes. More than ever, we need to support and protect one another. I encourage those of you who see or hear that a neighbor, a friend, or even a stranger is being abused to say something. Say something by calling law enforcement. Relationship abuse is unacceptable in any form, and we must all do our part to be aware of and to stop abuse that's hidden inside the home. Many victims of abuse may be terrified of what their abuser may do to them if they cry out for help. Be willing to make a phone call for someone who is too afraid to call. If you see or hear something, say something. Say something by calling law enforcement. If you have a friend, a family member, or someone else you know who has experienced abuse in the past or is at risk for abuse, consider checking on them by phone or by video chat. If you see signs, if you are told, or if you expect that someone is being abused, say something. Say something by calling law enforcement. To the essential workers in our grocery stores, our gas stations, and food service locations, we appreciate you continuing to show up at work every day and providing us with the basics that we need to get through these tough times. You are an important part of our community, not only for the work that you are doing, but also for the intervention that you could provide. Please be aware that you may be the only outside contact that someone who is being abused may have during this time. If you see injuries that you think may have been caused by abuse, say something. If you hear something that indicates that someone is being abused, say something. Say something by calling law enforcement. For abuse that is in progress or has just occurred, call 911. For all other reporting, call the Sheriff's Dispatch Center at 805-683-2724. Again, that's 805-683-2724. We also recognize that staying at home in and of itself can be challenging on many levels. And we know that those challenges cause stress. These are difficult times. Many people have become unemployed, have suffered financially, or have loved ones who have contracted the coronavirus. Working from home, or even just staying at home while trying to weather these difficult times, can be overwhelming. We want to emphasize today that there are resources available to you if you are feeling any kind of high anxiety. We encourage anyone who is feeling overwhelmed to say something, to reach out, and to get some help. You can connect with some very important resources by calling any of these organizations and numbers. The 211 call center, just dial 211. Or if you're outside the area, call 800-400-1572. Our behavioral wellness department's 24/7 access line is available to you at 888-868-1649. Again, that's 888-868-1649. And our community wellness team information and referral line is available to you at 805-364-2750. Again, that's 805-364-2750. As I close out my remarks this morning, I want to again thank the members of our community for their cooperation and their adherence to our stay-at-home order. And I want to thank and give a special shout out to some people in our community who are making a difference in a very unique and special way. I'm talking about a group of inmates in the county jail who are enrolled in our sheriff's treatment program and are participating in its Success Stories curriculum. They volunteered to make face shields for healthcare professionals and first responders to use during this crisis. After being supplied with the raw materials to make them, these men got to work and they have assembled more than 800 face shields so far. And they have a goal of making 2,400 in total. I want to say thank you to them for using their time in custody so selflessly and so productively. As we make our way through this public health crisis, let's stay strong, let's be positive, and let's work together to contain and to ultimately defeat this deadly virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Brown, for those thoughtful and powerful words. It is now my honor to introduce our Fire Chief, Mark Hartwig.
Thank you, DA Dudley. Thank you, Sheriff Brown. I want to start by saying we're here and we're open for business, just not quite as usual. I want to spend a little bit of time today telling you how we might respond just a little differently to your emergencies during this crisis. We're fully staffed and capable All 16 stations in the county fire department are fully operational. We have cooperated and joined with our colleagues throughout the county to provide seamless coverage to anything you might need. We maintain our specialized personnel and programs, USAR, hazmat, water rescue, helicopter operations, paramedic service, heavy equipment. What we've realized even over the last few weeks is calls still happen. Oil spills, structure fires, rescues. We're ready and we're responding. About a week ago, our incident management team, comprised of public safety personnel throughout the county, joined with the county to assist in efforts to combat and flatten the curve for the virus. We have one of only a few incident management teams that reside in this county that are rostered for use throughout the country. We're a fortunate community. Fire stations continue to be closed to the public. In fact, fire stations are closed to family members, which is a big step for us. Our goal is to maintain that ready workforce that I committed to just a moment ago. If you need help at a fire station, you can dial 911 or you can knock on the door, and there's instructions at each fire station. We're doing our best to social distance. Social distancing is fairly simple around the office for those of us that have to be there. Not so easy in a communal living arrangement like a fire station. They're doing things now that we never thought we would do, and yet they're rolling well with the punches. We sanitize regularly. We maintain as best you can social distancing in a house-like setting. Our training continues because we need to be there for you when you need us. This last weekend, the crew from Isla Vista was setting up a rope system and hoisting up a fake victim from the cliffs, which is something they do occasionally and they need to maintain their skills for. You might have seen the fuels crew out in Burton Mesa this week, removing fuels. We know we'll have a fire season that comes up, and then maintaining that readiness to respond to wildland fire is one of our primary responsibilities. The Fire Marshal's office continues to do business. They continue to receive applications for projects and certificates online and are available by phone. I want to emphasize and re-emphasize what DA Dudley and Sheriff Brown talked about so much today. If you see something, and if you know something, say something. You can approach any one of us in uniform, in a fire uniform, or any other public safety uniform. I want to end with just a couple of personal remarks. Everybody is affected by this in a way that we never even imagined 2 months ago. Every conversation has an underlying tension to it. I've been here for about a year, and one thing I know is this community rallies together to combat and to meet every single challenge that it's faced. We will do that today. We have a graduation coming up. We have 13 recruits in a fire academy, and one of the things they look forward to in every fire academy is to be able to be pinned with a badge by their loved ones. That won't happen this time. We'll have to pick another time for that to happen. Another interesting side effect of the virus. Firefighters law enforcement personnel and other public safety officials often get recognition for the courage and the bravery that they exhibit. They'll continue to exhibit that. There's a section, though, of our and colleagues, close colleagues of ours in hospitals and emergency rooms that are every bit as brave and courageous as the first responders and law enforcement and firefighters are today. Those that come to work every day knowing that they're going to see very sick people infected with the virus, knowing that they will expose themselves, essentially putting themselves between the disease and those that they serve, very similar to your public safety professionals. Joyce, as I call you back up, I just want to recognize the efforts, the courage, and the bravery of the hospital personnel, emergency room, floor, technicians, all of you that continue to serve us as we serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for your thoughtful and inspiring words. Let me tell a personal story about the emergency rooms. These two gentlemen have long been two of my community heroes. Over the last few years, I've come to view the people who work in our hospitals, especially in our emergency rooms, as heroes. Early on Sunday, I sent a text to the head doctor, the head of our local emergency room. And I said, when you get a chance, please call me. I need to hear your voice and I need to know how you are. He didn't get back to me until about 8 that night. He texted me and said, "Is now good. What's more important than talking to him?" So I said, "Of course." So we spoke and I asked one question, "How are you?" And he said, "You're not going to believe what the nurses have been doing. They're seeing people, they're with people, they're doing everything they can to comfort people." And he went on and on for literally about a minute about the nurses. And I appreciate that, but I still wanted to know about him. I said, "And how are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm thinking about all those parents that are home with their children and they're trying to be teachers and they're trying to be parents and they're trying to be spouses and they're also trying to get some work done. I keep thinking about them." Okay, now this is my third try. "But how are you?" He said, "I'm fine." And I said, "I don't know what that means. Where are you?" And he said, "I'm at the hospital 7 days a week. When I'm not at the hospital, I live in the basement of my home." And I said, "Do you see your family?" And he said, "No." I said, "How do you get food?" And he said, "They leave food by the doorway for me." I said, "When was the last time you hugged your wife?" And he said, 2.5 weeks ago. So when our fire chief talks about the heroes that are working in our hospitals, in our emergency rooms, please think about this man and realize that he is thinking about the parents who are home and the nurses who are serving. That's the kind of community Santa Barbara County is. We think of others. And I know 2 ways for us to get through this. One is to realize it's just temporary. And the other is to continue to engage in acts of kindness, because acts of kindness always help. With that, we're open to any questions, but we are going to move around so we're not all at the podium together. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, first I just wanted to kind of start off, since you guys have been hitting so hard on if you see something or hear something, say something. I'm not sure if you have this off the top of your head, but I'm curious to know, so I know you said last week at a press conference that domestic violence has risen a lot
Right.
since everyone's gone into hunker down mode.
Right.
Could I get some kind of data as far as...
Yeah, and the data will scare you, because this is the data. The first week this happened, there was a 21% increase in calls, and we expected that. But the second week, there was a drop, and a drop, and a drop. I've been doing this work for 30 years. These gentlemen have also been doing this work for decades. The only reason it's dropping is because people aren't reporting it. And the reason people aren't reporting it is they're in home and they're terrified. So the fact that we're seeing less calls for domestic violence, child abuse, child sexual abuse, elder abuse, and animal abuse only makes us more alarmed.
Okay, thank you. And then my other two questions, less about what we talked about today. So I know the California Supreme Court ruled that people who are accused of crimes can have face-to-face, and I know that for the most part prosecutors don't want that and they want it held remotely. I was just kind of wondering, what's your take on that? I know
Sure.
Hannah Beth Jackson was actually quoted saying she prefers the virtual.
Yes.
If you share.
I have not heard that prosecutors or defense attorneys prefer close quarters. My understanding is all the defense attorneys in this county, as well as the prosecutors in this county and across the country, all realize this is a life and death situation and we need to have virtual courtrooms. Now, you're absolutely right. The California Supreme Court Justice said that defendants can decide they don't want a virtual courtroom. But I don't know what the judges will do about that, because they're going to be faced with the problem, do we give the defendant what he wants and then put the risk on court staff and attorneys? That's going to be up to our local judges.
Okay, cool. And then, sorry, one more, and this is
Sure.
for you. I was wondering, I know that there are, you said, record lows as far as inmates in the jail right now. I know people are still kind of putting some pressure on the sheriff's office to release more. Is that even possible, or have we released basically as many as would allow?
Well, there will be a few more releases as a result of the action that was taken by the Judicial Council yesterday. We're in the preliminary stages of determining how many, but it probably looks like about, not a huge number, probably somewhere in the order of around 20 or so additional people that will qualify for release as a result of the Judicial Council's action yesterday, and in setting zero bail for so-called non-serious felonies and for most misdemeanors. So we do have some inmates who are in jail who are awaiting those charges, and there'll be about 20 or so of them released. But just to give you an indicator, an up-to-date indicator, right now we have 693 inmates in our jail, and for the past almost for the past week or so, that level has been hovering at or below the 700 level. To give you an idea, and this is as of yesterday, on the 6th of April 2019, we had 933 people in our jail. So it's a significant decrease from historic levels. And to give you an idea, a lot of that is due to the input has been reduced. The tap has been turned down in terms of bookings, people that are being brought to jail by deputy sheriffs and police officers in the field. Again, back in 2019, this is for the dates March 18th, the start of the stay-at-home order, through April the 6th. During that period in 2019, there were 645 people who were arrested and brought to our jail. In the same period for 2020, there were 300. So significant reduction in terms of the numbers that are coming in. We have already released many inmates, and it's important to understand that because of our jail overcrowding conditions, because of our existing policy, we were already releasing inmates 21 days early on their sentences. We adopted a policy of releasing them 30 days early with a few criteria that would exclude people that hadn't served a third of their sentence and some other things. But for the most part, anyone with a 30-day who had 30 days or less to go was being released under our policy, and this expands that a little bit in terms of the numbers of people that will be affected. But I suspect that we'll continue to see, as this progresses and we see fewer people coming in. And again, remember that even people who normally would be out committing crimes, their opportunities are substantially diminished right now. There's very little activity out on the street, and there's pretty much everybody's at home. So in terms of trying to commit a burglary or a theft, it's more difficult now because people are present whereas they aren't under the normal course of business. So our hope is that we will, see a number of things take effect when this order is lifted, and that we'll see some diminished crimes. But the expectation is that we will see an increase in crime, and we will see an increase in our jail population commensurate with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sheriff, is there any concern, because it's kind of unfair to ask this, but I guess at the Board of Supervisors meeting right now where they're doing the presentation, they're talking about the curve being further back than they're talking about possibly June or even into July before it's at peak. So are you worried that, like we had with some of the fires, that we get into a fatigue thing where people are sheltering in place or staying home, that people might not be as cooperative as they are?
That's a great question, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a major factor in this case for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that people recognize the gravity of this situation. And I think that they recognize that it's not just about them, it's about everyone else. It's about the rest of the community. And even if they're young and healthy, they might be unknowingly spreading this disease to where it might impact an elderly person or someone who has a pre-existing health condition. And I suspect that will continue to follow in the weeks ahead. The other factor is that I think there's a lot of good education going on right now at the national and at the local level about what flattening the curve really means. What it means is we're working to prevent a spike earlier on in the process, a spike that could overwhelm our community's medical resources, could overwhelm our ability to care for people who are sick. And as a result of that, it would be very likely that more people would die because there wouldn't be facilities or equipment like ventilators available for them. As we flatten the curve, the downside to that is that it extends the amount of time that we're going to be dealing with this virus. But I think that's a small price to pay if everyone realizes that we're actually doing this for the safety of our community. And I suspect that there'll be some kind of a blended approach down the road in terms of once we get past this where everybody needs to stay at home, there'll probably be some focus on people who are within that age range where they're more susceptible or pre-existing conditions. They may need to stay longer than other people will as slowly we start to get back to normal in the community. But that's all yet to come. It's obviously being discussed openly, so I'm not telling anything that anybody doesn't know by watching the news regularly. But I've got a lot of confidence in the people of this county, and I believe that they recognize now and that they'll continue to recognize that we've got to pull together and we've got to make this work. And the only way that happens is if people stay at home.
Lance.
Wait, if I could ask you a quick question. Actually, kind of a two-part question. One is, I know in Ventura County we've heard about some instances where the district attorney's office was investigating some reports of price gouging.
Right.
Do we have any open cases here?
Yes. We've had, at this point, 11 people have contacted our office and asked us to investigate price gouging. I have one full-time lawyer who does nothing but follows up on those investigations, and one full-time district attorney investigator who does the same. So we are fully following up on them. Of no surprise, because our community tends to be this kind of a community, the increase in most of the things were due to distributor costs, so costs that they're incurring as well. So again, price gouging is no more, from the time a disaster is declared, the person can't make a profit of more than 10%. If they're charged more for something from a company, then they get to increase their price commensurate with the 10%. So yes. The other thing I'm deeply concerned about are scams. The internet is full of scams. There are things that are just not true. Now, what's happening now is people are less able to check out facts because they're not talking to each other. And also, there are more people who realize how vulnerable you are. So before you believe anything on the internet, you really need to Google that and then see if it's a scam. There are so many scams out there, and they're looking for prey.
Obviously, we're not Los Angeles, but I know in Los Angeles, the city government has asked prosecutors there to help deal with some businesses that were not in compliance, that were really supposed to be closed. And
Right.
Have we had anything like that locally?
You know, I love the beginning of that. We're not LA. We're not LA. I've been in this town since '71. People know each other. You walk past a situation. Every day I've gone out on long walks, and I've walked State Street and I've walked Coast Village Road to see if people are violating that. I also walk along the beach, and I really haven't seen that much of it. I think this community, the county of Santa Barbara, cares so much about each other that we haven't seen it as much. But if we do, there are certainly ways to follow up on it, and we will, especially egregious situations that put people in danger. Other questions? Anything else, Chief? Anything else, Sheriff?
One question,
Yes.
please. Yeah. We, as citizens, are concerned naturally about various things. Will you people be conducting such a situation that we are in now, a place of informants, my
okay.
choice of words, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Take your time.
In other words, we want to be informed.
I understand.
We want to get it straight.
Yes.
And we hope we can come here. If we can't go to our newspapers or wherever,
Yeah.
hopefully we can come here or someplace where we can get the straight poop and comply with it.
Yes. You deserve nothing less. I see you're wearing a hat. Are you a Korean War veteran?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Let me thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And we made it through that time, and you're an inspiration to us so that we know we can make it through this, and we will give you the straight information, sir. Thank you for asking.
You mentioned the press conferences too, the public health,
What?
public health press conferences.
Yeah, there's also the public health press conferences are 4:30 in the afternoon, and Channel 3 often shows all of it or part of it, and also on a county website you can see those. Those are local people telling you the straight poop, as you called it. I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank all of you in the audience for listening. Please take care of yourself, stay safe, and take care of others, because we are Santa Barbara County strong. Be well.
Thank you.